Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and online role-playing aficionado, and welcome to another DM's Guild review, a written and video review series where I take a look at the adventures and supplemental material at the Dungeon Masters Guild website. With this video, we'll be reviewing the DM's Guild supplemental material, Construct Compendium, designed by Brandon Norris and Richie for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. A review copy has been provided for the purposes of this review. So, hello. Golems and mechs, mechanical things, constructed things, those have always been a part of Dungeons and Dragons. It's at the level of, people are using crossbows and spike traps, and, there's some rudimentary mechanical stuff. And there's, constructs, there's statues coming to life, golems are a thing in fantasy, but we're not talking like cyberpunk stuff usually when we talk about Dungeons and Dragons. The Construct Compendium here really expands on just anything and everything to do with mechanical themes, construction, vehicles, autonomous stuff like Warforged from Eberron. This adds everything, and it's really organized quite similarly to Xanathar's Guide to Everything, where it adds spells and feats and new races and new class archetypes. Just, you get a little bit of everything, including NPC stat blocks, which I don't think Xanathar's has, because usually when they do monsters, D&D Wizards does separate releases like Follow's Guide to Monsters. So you really have a bit of everything for both DMs and players, and it's pretty damn comprehensive. The word, compendium gets thrown around quite a bit, and I think this one actually is worthy of the nomenclature. You get over 75 pages, I believe. Let's go ahead and look at here we go. Yeah, you get, it's 7 chapters, and it's organized, very similarly to just all the D&D stuff, where it's broken down between races, archetypes, feats, spells, and all that. So I'll go through kind of a brief overview. Obviously, I'm certainly not going to go page to page. That's not how I do my reviews, but just want to give you an overview about what you're going to get with the Construct Compendium. But overall, I was really impressed with just the sheer amount of information here, as well as how well it sticks to the theme. And it has a very obvious theme, which is all things mechanical and constructed. So first thing you get in Chapter 1 are new player races. There are 4 total new races, and they're all really cool. And you can see here, this is just one of them. You get a lot of information. There's a lot of lore and history here. This might even be longer than I'd have to pull out my player's handbook, but this may even be more information than what you get for elves and dwarves. There's a lot here. The Ascended. So the Ascended are really cyborgs, which is kind of playing fast and loose with what D&D is. Now, obviously not all 5th edition adventures take place on Faerun and the Forgotten Realms. I totally understand that. And it's up to every DM about how much they want to incorporate, whatever elements. You can do a low magic, you can do high magic, you can have people fucking replace their arms with cybernetic limbs if you want, and that can be really cool. On the flip side, these seem very powerful, because if you replace any part of your body with cybernetics, usually in game terms, that just makes you straight better. There's no cap or limit on that. And sure enough, here it does make you real good. Especially there's one I liked. Yeah, reinforced organs. When you're hit with a critical hit, you can use your reaction to essentially force them to re-roll. So anytime somebody hits you, you basically give them disadvantage, which seems really goddamn great. Also, you can become an Ascended of any race. So you literally have sub races for each race. You can be an Ascended Dragonborn, Ascended Human, and that kind of takes whatever their baseline stat bonus is and gives them yet another ability. I think it's funny that the Dragonborn literally just gets a mechanical version of their breath weapon, which is okay. But pretty cool. Chemlings are Frankenstein's monster creatures. They're really creepy looking, patchwork. Artificial beings. They don't really age. Just kind of seemed like the least interesting to me, although there was an impressive amount of actual culture, which, given that these are artificially created creatures, is fascinating. Otherwise, their abilities and things weren't terribly interesting. The Rogue Modren, man, such a cool idea for a character. Reminds me of, what was that was a Modren you got in your party on Planescape Torment, the video game. Modrens are neat. They're, you know, bound by law, and they're all from the plane of, what is it, Mechanus, I think. Yeah, perfect concept. The great machine is their god, and or Mechanus is the god. Anyway, you can be a Modren who is broken away from that. Essentially, is their own person. They have a really crazy kind of like alien way of thinking, where it's, you know, very much a hive mind. So that could be a really interesting character to roleplay, and there's some really interesting gameplay benefits, because you literally, as you level up, you become different forms of Modrens. Like if you remember in the monster manual, there was the Duodrone, the Tridrone, the Quadrone, and they all look like fucking like Jim Henson Muppet creatures. Just really old school, just crazy cool designs that I really dig. But like at 5th level, you can Duodrone. You can increase an ability score of your choice by 1. Tridrone at 10th level, and you gain a 3rd arm, which can do other things, although you don't get a 3rd attacks. It's way too imbalancing. But just kind of neat. And also when you die, you get replaced by another Modren, because you're like this from another plane of existence, and all Modrens are just replaced equally, so there's always like the same amount. But you're 1 level lower, and you are a completely different Modren with a different personality and different memories and everything. So that's a bizarre way of like re-rolling a character that's like built into the character. And finally, you get Warforged, which obviously has been around before in the I believe the Eberron setting. In fact, in our D&D campaign right now, we have at the time of this video, we're still playing Storm King's Thunder, and one of our characters is playing a Warforged. So this is so Warforged exist in other material. I don't know if they're in the Unearthed Arcana or not, if they've made it quite official, but this one seems like the least inventive, but also kind of the most necessary. You feel like if there's going to be a construct compendium, then yeah, you got to have the Warforged in there. But there's a lot of neat stuff about their cultures, and how they're these, you know, the Iron Giant kind of built these war machines that now have their own, have to figure out how to do things and live. I do find it interesting that there's 2 sub-races for Warforged, which is you can be a soldier or a scout, and the scout basically just lets you be more dexterous rather than have the AC bonus and the strength. You can, take like the dash action. As a bonus action, your dex increases, and your AC is equal to 13 plus your dex. So it just lets you be kind of more of like a rogue or ranger Warforged, which is really neat. Alright, so those were the races. Chapter 2, Archetypes. I'm definitely not going to go through all of these, but there is a single new class archetype for every single class, which is, 10, 11, 12 classes. So that's really impressive. They all have very similar themes, again, using some kind of mechanical or construct theme in mind. That being said, some of them seem to work better than others. Obviously, I haven't played any of these. I can't comment too much on the balance level just at a glance. It is built, for 5th edition, so you've got most of them you pick it at 3rd level. The exceptions, I think, are like Wizard, Sorcerer, Warlock. You pick it first. And then you gain abilities every so often, like 6th level, 10th level, 14th level. And some of them work better than others. The Barbarian one, the Path of the Scarecrow, you gain an ability that lets you, meditate, and then you can blend in with the environment. You literally, turn into, a chair or something. Let's see. Take the shape of a small or medium unliving inanimate object, such as a scarecrow, a chair, or a book. And you just sit there, so you transform yourself into just an inanimate item, an object, and the idea is you can spring out of it, as a bonus action, and get a surprise, bonus attack on somebody. That's hilariously awesome. Seems really tricky to employ because, your whole party can't do that. It's just you, so I guess you could leave the Barbarian in the front room and, I don't know, have them pop out. It seems really funny, and more prone to just goofiness of my character sits really still and turns into a lampshade or something. And I'm not sure what that has to do with mechanical or construct, other than I guess the inanimate object thing kind of counts. So that one's kind of funny. Let's see, Bard, Cleric are less interesting. Druid. The Druid, how do you make a nature person be involved in mechanical stuff? You don't. Instead, what they did is they looked at the wild shape ability of the Druid, which lets them transform into beasts, and instead says with the Circle of the Warshaper, you basically become the T-1000. You can transform your arms into swords, or you can even turn, I think, both of them into one two-handed weapon, which seems really cool, but I'm not sure The thematic on that one's a little bit, I don't know, but that seems hilarious. You're proficient with natural weapons. You can use, ooh, that's a big one. You can use your wisdom modifier as your attack instead of strength or dex, which that seems, oof, very powerful. Though very odd because I guess, I don't know, you feel like you'd have to have like a strength dex build to be like, I'm going to turn and do this thing and just slice people up, but I'm going to use my wisdom modifier, so that means I'm more of a spellcasting build, so why would I do this? I don't know. And you don't gain, the hit points of like transforming into a beast. You're just getting the offensive capabilities, so it seems pretty limited. It's like, well, if I didn't want to cast spells, I guess I could worse shape my hands and attack with those. You do get double attack at 6th level, which is kind of crazy. Fighter, you basically get the ability to have a dancing blade as a familiar, which is neat, but also it's more than that. You actually like imbue sentience into the sword itself, and you can like command it as a little faithful buddy, which seems really cool, and I like the name Blade Speaker. It's pretty neat. Monk is bizarre. You get to summon like a construct of a fallen foe, and that's like your ally. Paladin seems pretty cool. You gain a new order which has tenets, universal order, so you're just super lawful. Kind of like from that lawful plane of Mechanus, which is used and referenced over and over and over again throughout this thing. But it seems very, very thematic and nice because there's a lot of things you can do with law, obviously, for a paladin. Let's see. Ranger lets you just... A lot of it is transforming yourself into like a statue for defenses. The Idolater for the rogue... I'm just going to end up going through these anyway. That's pretty much what I'm doing. Lets you... It's basically like the Artificer. You get to build a little device, and it triggers on like reactions to different things. So like the Warning Dove here triggers when you're surprised by an enemy, so you're not surprised. Or there's a shield you can make. What is it, like a pepper box sprays the opponent when they attack. So just different little things you can use. Kind of defensive, but you can have all these little items on you, which seems kind of interesting and unique. Transmorphication Sorcerer is neat. Warlock Artificial is neat. You can see they add some new spells, and I kind of glanced over Cleric. And the spells are a lot of them are original spells that are added in a later chapter, which is cool. Sorcerer is crazy over here. You can select, there's like I don't know if you call this a graph, but whenever you do damage, if you cast a spell that moves you to the damage type exactly one space clockwise of where you previously were, you may add your Charisma modifier to the damage roll, which means you always have to be doing a different form of damage, or you can spend a sorcery point to move it around. That's a really interesting yet complex feature to add to a class. I can't tell if that would be fun or not. So if somebody's really into like... That seems like very board gamey too. You have like a thing and you're like moving a thing around to determine what's going on, so it could be really neat, or it could just be added headache for somebody. But that's the Sorcerer. What is that one called? Essence Infused. And I think that just about covers... Yeah, in the Warlock one, you basically become more of like a construct. That's all the classes, but that's really neat. Like, you get an entirely new class archetype for everybody. As I said, some of them are a little neater than others, but they all do follow that theme of either summoning constructs, or dealing with constructs, or becoming more like a construct, worshipping a construct. It's all very heavily thematic. Chapter 3 feats, pretty easy. There's only like a page here. It's by far the weakest section of the book. I'm not going to put this as a con because, again, we get so much content. I'm not going to be like, whoa, this content's not as crazy rich as your other content. Like, that's fine. And feats are, frankly, an optional part of 5th edition anyway. A lot of people don't even play with feats because that was a big part of 3.5 and Pathfinder and kind of part of why 5th edition is more streamlined and a little easier to digest is that you don't really even need feats. Like, characters are basically just have all those abilities baked in. We do still play with feats, but that's because it's kind of cool to pick and choose some neat ones. This one, just at a glance, who the hell wouldn't want to replace their eyes with augmented eyes? You get your wisdom score increased by 1, you gain dark vision, you can see perfectly in non-magical darkness, well, I think that is dark vision, and you can see invisible creatures. Boom, just fucking rip my eyes out and give me those cyber eyes, because that is just amazing for literally every character. Almost too amazing. Spells, as I mentioned, there's a lot of new spells, like that Cleric Construct Domain, the Warlock, whatever that was, the Construct Patron. They add a lot of new spells here, and again, they all have to do with constructs, mechanical things, repairing constructs, turning people into constructs to get the defensive benefits. Summoning constructs like a Clockwork Porter or an Ornithopter, which the only reason I know what that is from that Magic the Gathering card, which is like a little, basically a drone. It's like it's a little drone scout. Shield Wall. There's like you can summon dummies on the battlefield, which will essentially taunt and attack enemy creatures, as well as one of them that like, what is it? Has a creepy. Oh, it's Pocket Jester. I think it's Horrifying Mannequin. There we go. That one sounded cool. You summon this creepy mannequin whose lifeless eyes weep blood at a point within range, so it turns towards somebody each round and attempts to frighten them. That's pretty horrifying. But there's a really good mix of crowd control, damage, summoning, transforming, just all the different ways of doing spells while also sticking to the theme, which is really nice. Magic items. I think there's about 2-3 pages of magic items. And again, uses that theme quite a bit for the most part. I'm not sure what the frog spear has to do with constructs, other than it's just kind of a neat weapon. My favorite out of here are definitely the Boots of Hurtling, which essentially turn your character into Iron Man. But you have to roll a d20 before every round in combat, and that determines what the boots actually do, which is nice, because I feel like anything that's sufficiently powerful, and I believe if you add like guns to your campaign, that's the same kind of limiting factor, where you basically have a chance for something, for the item to backfire or not do what you want it to do, which is a nice risk-reward system. This one has basically a 50% chance of doing what you want it to do. On 11 and 19, you just fly to the nearest person and get to attack them. But the boots have a chance to expel gouts of steam in a 10-foot radius around you, making like a little mini fog cloud, or even blast you 60 feet in a random direction and probably slamming you into a wall for damage, which is nasty. But still, I think that's a neat thing to have, and do not require attunement, which is nice because it has that risk-reward factor. And we get to the Bestiary in Chapter 6, and there is a lot to be had here. As you can imagine, this is a construct compendium. There are a lot of constructs here. I particularly like all these new animated objects, which I think there's maybe 2 or 3 listed in the monster manual, but this one really goes to town with that, especially creating this little scenario with an automated forge, flying smith's hammer, and living bellows. So they just basically made a cool encounter right there with this just autonomous sentient forge and items going around. The self-propelled arrow here, straight up out of Guardians of the Galaxy. I love that. Literally this thing that goes this arrow that controls and self-propelled arrow moves too quickly to counterattack as it zips past. It does not take opportunity attacks. It just rolls around and attacks. Fortunately, it has garbage AC and hit points, but I guess the idea is instead of one super powerful arrow that you can't hit, you probably want a couple of arrows at people, but because it's only a challenge rating 1/8. But still, a neat idea. I immediately thought of Guardians of the Galaxy when I saw that. Let's see, what else? Animated Steed is hilarious. You literally cast that on like a couch, and then you get to ride the fucking couch into battle, which is amazing. What is it? Created from a table, sawhorse, sofa, or other inanimate object with legs and a platform for riding. It is loyal to its rider and able to follow their physical and verbal commands. Though it may seem strange to see a paladin charging into battle while wobbling upright on the back of a loafing dinner table, the animated steed is a true companion who knows no fear. That is amazing. I love that. That's exactly the kind of things I want to see in D&D, is just goofy shit, but taken to a really like cool level that can work. And I think that's a great thing. I absolutely love that. Otherwise, you've got, what do we got? Automatons, vehicles. There's a lot of vehicles. One of them is just literally a giant iron giant, a CR-17 giant thing. There was one, I don't remember if this was a spell or somebody's ability, where they could, I think it was a spell. They literally targeted an enemy with like red lasers, and the spell was like one of these giant mechs somewhere in the world just like launches missiles. So you're like painting a target and calling it an airstrike on somebody. It was a high level spell, which is hilarious. But apparently this is where the actual creature's stat blocks are. But yeah, you get the traditional, stat blocks. There's a few pictures here and there. The art's fine. It's not. Well, yeah, there's a good amount of art in here. My one complaint for the aesthetic, it's organized very well. I like the chapters, the design, obviously. Stat blocks are good. The actual font and text is distractingly plain. It's literally like, I don't know, Times New Roman, I guess. Like literally someone just copy and pasted it from Microsoft Word, and that looks jarringly bad for some reason here. Like it's got the nice, what is that? Whatever this color background is that Wizards uses for all their stuff, and kind of a lot of DM's Guild people use too. That kind of brownish, coffee stain, sepia tone background. And everything else, it's organized fine. The pictures aren't quite blended in very well. Like this one is kind of a square instead of like nice, what do you call it, blend in with the background, and that's fine. It's for DM's Guild, but the font for some reason really annoys me. I don't know. I've never looked at material from the DM's Guild before and been like, oh man, doesn't work really well. And I feel like that's the way with this. Just the font specifically. I don't know. It just feels really like I'm reading a Microsoft Word document. It feels very plain. That was pretty much my only complaint, though. Otherwise, there's just a lot of really neat creatures here. The doll swarm sounds like it should be a spirit, though, and not a construct. I don't know, maybe it's a construct. Really creepy, though. A bunch of kids' dolls that attack and kill you. This one has one of my favorite lines from the actual entire adventure. Ritual creates the doll swarm. Requires child sacrifice. That's only powered by incredible spirits. Some of the spirits are too far gone, tainted by necromantic energy, and the only game they want to play is murder. That's good. Thumbs up for that sentence. Let's see. Furniture golems. Obviously, tons of golems. Ooze core golems. Inevitables is an entire race of constructs from the plane of Mechanus. So there's a whole big, almost like a pantheon of creatures that you could use, which are, have all kinds of cool abilities. And if you are going to go into the plane of Mechanus, this is absolutely the guide you need. Really good stuff here. The final chapter, oh my gosh, I'm splitting out. There we go. Is a guide to creating your own golem. Now, this is a neat part of the book, but I feel like it's the least useful. It's an entirely original concept, is the ability for your PCs to build their own construct, their own golem. And there is a ton of rules and material for this. You can use, it's gold cost for like the base. Do you want an iron golem? Do you want a flesh golem? Stone, whatever you want. The size determines how much it costs. You get their base statistics, attack damage. You can modify statistics. You can imbue the golem with all these crazy abilities, which is very much like a video game skill tree. Excuse me. It's like, and they're all based on other monsters. So you've got you got giant octopus ink. Kenku's voice box, the Boule claws, gives it a digging ability, Ankeg mandible. Like, that's crazy. You're making this insanely powerful thing, and granted, this is probably a high level thing because it costs a lot of money and a lot of time. I think you have to cast a certain amount of spell slots into it, like 20 spell slots worth of spells for every size category. 5 spell slots for every size category, larger than medium. It's a lot of work. So, it's hard to tell if it's balanced or not because we're talking pretty high level. But I don't know if I would let my players build what is essentially another super powerful PC. I have misgivings about it. It's neat. There's a lot of information here. What I would do is either have my high-level party pool their resources to build this thing and make that be almost like a mini campaign in itself, and the reward is that you get this golem, but the golem would always be under the DM control, and of course would have its own personality because that's just fun. Like, you can't, whether it's Iron Giant or Bender from Futurama or something, or one of the HK-47, you pick a personality and you'd roll with it, but it's got to have something. Or I would have my players find a golem, better yet, and then let them kind of repair it as an ongoing side quest. And I like the idea here because these are all taken from monsters, all these abilities, is you put in like a little monster hunter aspect to their campaign, and you add the fact that, you can rip out this Nothic's eye and then by doing this skill check and this much money, you can put that in your golem and then upgrade them that way. You know, make it to where they actually have to acquire and fight these monsters first, and then they gain the ability to upgrade their golem. I think that'd be really fun. I would still be very worried about making that golem like too damn powerful, but I think as long as it has its own personality, excuse me, I think it could be a lot of fun. So let's do pros and cons. For the Construct Compendium, Pro, you get over 75 pages of content. Like, this is an insanely huge endeavor. It's not, you know, it's not as big as Xanathar's or something, obviously, but it's pretty damn big for DM's Guild. Very big for the DM's Guild. And it's all tied to a specific theme, which is constructs and mechanical things. But you get races, you get classes, you get a shit ton of monsters, spells, feats, magic items, like everything you could want. The only problem is, I don't know, obviously for DMs it's good, but the players are the ones going to be using the classes, so it kind of gives a little bit to everybody, which maybe makes it a little less focused, but that's not a con. I think it's all pro here. The races are a lot of fun as a pro, and they're given lots of details and lore. Tons of information. You got their names, you got, you know, how long they live, it's all that usual stuff, but they seem pretty well thought out. Some of them maybe a little more powerful than others. It's the tendency to create something new. You want to make it the new hotness, you know, you want to make it really cool. Maybe some of them are a little too cool, so just be wary of that before your players want to rip out their heart and replace it with a mechanical heart, because in this universe apparently that's just straight up a better thing to do. Like, why wouldn't everybody do that? You got a nice variety of spells. I really like the spells also. Just a good mix of different kinds of spells. You know, your crowd control, your damage, your summoning, all that is really good. And a lot of it, even if you're not have a construct themed campaign, there are just nice spells in here that you could use for anybody, which is a nice mix. And really, my only con is the weird font, like the plain font. It's just, I don't know if it's literally Times New Roman, but it literally looks like it was just copy and pasted directly from Microsoft Office and put into the document. And the other parts of it are fine, like the actual background part is good, the artwork is fine. It's just, the font is kind of weird. It's just distractingly plain to me. But otherwise, you know, it doesn't, I don't think it certainly destroys the document or anything like that. I think it's just a really solid guide. So, final verdict, the Construct Compendium is incredibly comprehensive with a nice mix of everything you could want to inject some mechanically themed elements into your adventure. Thank you guys for watching this video review. You can see my written review at roguewatson.com, and you can follow our own D&D adventures here on my YouTube channel. Thank you.